Well, my view was that if I was going to make change, I could not do it in a conventional way. And everyone was hostile. Everyone tried to provoke me in different ways. Everyone told me in one way or another to get out of town. They couldn't stand an independent legal service program that was going to represent the poor against the powerful.
It's always a great pleasure for me to honor a kid like Bob here, years younger than I am, so it's a particular pleasure. I'm sure I have great hopes for him when he grows up. I made a couple of notes. CRLA, I have DC complaint, it says. That's always been one of my favorite activities that Bob was involved in. He filed a complaint which he sent to the White House against several agencies because they didn't have proper affirmative action programs. And it was so well done that the lawyers in the White House thought it was a formal complaint, and they called him to see if they could get an extension of time to answer his complaint. Bob, we're all proud of the work that you've done for all these years.
As we grow older and as there are fewer and fewer of us left, it's very important that we not lose the insight, the information, the knowledge of people and of events that occurred during our time. It's up to us to tell the true history of people, extraordinary people like Bob, who lived in our time. And I'm convinced, as I have been for many years, that Bob is the greatest public advocate in the history of the world. That he, think about it, 50 years of advocacy for minorities, for women, for farm workers, for the handicapped, for low-income people, for disenfranchised people from all over. Almost anybody who was less fortunate could count on help and support from Bob. As a matter of fact, this has been the essence and purpose of Bob's entire life. The banks and the power people would bring in their lawyers from all over the country, and there'd be 100 lawyers in the room representing these utilities, and that would be Bob and I. And I would say, Bob, look at, they got all these lawyers. He said, don't worry about it. It means we're even.
I guess the most important thing I want to say about Bob Gnaizda, and I say it to many people, is he is the most imaginative and effective lawyer that I've ever worked with. Let me give you an example of how efficient and effective Bob can be. Back in the 1980s, Bob was one of the first people to understand the significance of the census. The allocation of billions of dollars of federal welfare and other social programs were determined based on census data. So Bob, instead of filing a lawsuit or writing an article, he sent a letter to the Secretary of Commerce in the Reagan administration who controlled the census. And he pointed out in this letter that Mexican Americans and other people of color had been grossly undercounted in the federal census and were therefore being unjustifiably deprived. The consequences of that letter, which took him about 30 minutes to write, was probably in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in reallocated federal funds that benefited working people.
Bob is unafraid, Bob is fearless, and Bob will fight until he cannot fight anymore for those people that are underserved, whether they are minorities or low and moderate income people. Bob is a fighter and he doesn't give up. Bob will fight until he takes his last breath. Bob cares about people. He treats everyone with dignity and respect. Bob may disagree with you on an issue, but he is not disagreeable.
Bob, just say advice like in 3 words or 5 words to the people that adores you.
Well, I don't know how many people adore me, but my advice...
I do!
Thank you. I would say my advice is to be true to yourself and follow your convictions. And don't be that afraid, because the consequences most of the time will be beneficial